Hey guys, if you are trying to climb in TFT right now, I have the very best compositions compiled by a couple of challenger players that I know, and this meta is like pretty solved now. In the first week, big patch. So a lot of things were shuffling around in that first couple of days, and then now after a big tournament happened, things are starting to settle down. With that in mind, there are going to be only a few playable compositions, and a lot of the comps that were like maybe A tier or B tier pretty much in the dumpster right now. But let's get into the summary. So first off, top 3 should be no surprise to anyone. We have the Skirmisher comp, Abomination Vel'Koz, and the Dragonslayer composition. And then in A tier, we have Assassins. So Assassins, they run LeBlanc carry, and it's a very good counter to the Abomination comp, which is why it's played so much. And then everything else down here, all the B and C tiers, you can try them. Some of them work a lot better if you are not trying to get to Challenger. If you guys are just trying to get to like Diamond or Masters or anything below that, these will work pretty well still. So first one is Forgotten Draven. Nightbringer Yasuo, you need great starts for it, so you can't play this every game. You could only play this at maybe like 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 games. Draconic Sett, same thing. You need a good Draconic opener, and it's getting countered by a lot of the comps right now. Hellion Reroll, really strong if you get a great start for it. Kayle Knights, a lot of people were asking me about this. They're like, hey bro, where's the Kayle comp? I've been seeing a lot of Kayles. It's played a lot, but not in like high challenger. Spellweaver Cavalier, this comp is a little interesting. So you need like a lot of 3 stars. And then in the C tier, don't touch these at all. Dawnbringer Karma, Zyra, Coven Reroll, Blender Nocturne, Draconic Ashe, Nightbringer Aphelios, Vayne Reroll, and other Abomination builds. Just don't touch these right now because you're just not going to have a good time. So I have a couple of guides on how to play every one of these compositions, and we are going to go in depth on the first 4. We're going to be going over leveling pattern, what the requirements are, some of their counters if you're facing a lot of them. But before we get into all of that, just a quick word from our sponsor. Yo, hold off for a second. I want to ask you a few questions. Have you guys taken down the Demon Lord yet? Have you crushed the Ice Golem? Have you ascended the Doom Tower? What about fighting against millions of real players in the arena? There are 500 champions in Raid Shadow Legends, so at least a couple of them are definitely going to be a good fit for you. All right, so we are in the arena. I have a tip for you guys. If you want to get easy wins to get a lot of loot, look for the guys that are really weak. So one of these guys are really weak, such as this guy in the second row. He's got level 5s, 4, 2, and 3. The first guy's got level 30, so you want to stay away from that. But you could also press this button up here to refresh the list. And this way, if you don't like what the choices you have are, you can get a new one by clicking that button. So now that we have this new selection up, we see that like there's this really weak guy over here. He's got 2 level 1s, so I'm going to go ahead and battle him. So this month, Raid just released an insane amount of new content. We have 11 new champions. In addition to the 500 we talked about before, we have 200 new missions to complete. And if you manage to finish them all, you get an exclusive legendary, and we all know how good legendaries are. And then if that's not enough for you guys, there are 5 new levels for almost every single dungeon. And that's just for this month. Like, you guys know me, like, there are new updates every single month. They are putting in a lot of stuff in this game. So what I want you guys to do is go down to the description or the top comment, either one work. Check out the links there, support my channel, download Raid today, at least just try it for a little bit. If you guys like it, you found a new game. If you don't, no harm done. And it is pretty much that easy, so I will see you guys in game. All right, we are back. Starting in the S tier, these are by far the best comps. Skirmishers. One of my coaches in my Discord made a full guide on it down here. You guys can check out the written guide on my website, BunnyMuffins.lol, or the video guide on my YouTube channel, as you guys know already. But this comp is pretty interesting because it is... well, maybe it's not actually that interesting. It's just 6 Skirmishers plus a bunch of Ironclad. You could replace the Ironclads for 4 Dragonslayers or for Mystics if you need them, depending on the lobby. But you just run Jack's 3 items. You put a bunch of like other items such as tank items on Trundle and Pantheon. I like having a Sunfire Cape or a Morello on Pantheon because that helps you beat the other Skirmishers. And then Trundle, he just likes any tank items like Warmogs, Redemption, like anything like that is going to be really good. You could itemize Viego as well. Viego is great, like a Quicksilver on him so he doesn't get interrupted. I've seen be pretty helpful as well. And then best items for Jax, I think right now is Bloodthirster, either version work. Shadow Runons for sure, and then Rapid Fire Cannon. So you could do Quicksilver, but I find Rapid Fire Cannon is a little more useful than Quicksilver. But you should note that Jax items are not as important as you think because literally there are so many different good units in this composition. Like Trundle and Pantheon, they carry games on their own. I've seen a lot of players, they only have like a Jax 1 because they got unlucky, and they're still winning games because Pantheon and Trundle are carrying really hard. So while perfect Jax items are nice, it's better just to slam items to try to get top 3, top 2 every single game because it is difficult to win with the Skirmisher comp. Just one thing to keep in mind. So the requirements of this composition is getting Skirmisher starts, so 3 Skirmishers in the beginning of the game or during stage 3 early. 6 Skirmishers on 4-1 obviously is really, really nice, and maybe like you hit a Jax one during that point. But another thing is 3 items for Jax. Again, like it doesn't matter which ones. I would prefer the ones on my screen up here, but you cannot get those every time. I'd rather slam quick items just to get a win streak going because that is even more important to get more health during the mid to late game. And lastly, like item holders, obviously Udyr is the best one if you get a Skirmisher start. You don't always get Skirmisher starts, so maybe you could do like Kalista. Sometimes you could do Vayne. I don't really like Vayne that much, so like try to stick to someone else. But Udyr is really good. And then afterwards, once you get Nidalee, you could transfer the items from Udyr to Nidalee before you get Jax, because you could still have 6 Skirmishers without Jax. And Nidalee is just like a much better carry unit than Udyr, and you replace Nidalee eventually anyways. You're going to be doing a standard leveling pattern, but during level 6 and level 7, you're going to be rolling a lot more than you do for other compositions that are typically level 8 comps, because if we look at the team right now, 2 costs, 3 costs, 2 costs, 3 costs. The other Skirmishers, all of the ones that are like really important for the mid game, they're pretty easy to hit on level 6 and 7. There are a lot of 2 and 3 costs that are actually good in this comp, so you will be rolling a lot more earlier than just saving all your gold at level 8 compared to other compositions. Lastly, like Mystics or Ironclad are good, and then the counters to this comp, it's like AoE is really good because they all start with a shield at the front. Vel'Koz is pretty good into Skirmishers in the late game. Like this comp does fall off, so just keep that in mind. That's why early game health is so important, because you will just eventually bleed out to a lot of the late game scaling teams. But despite all that, like again, to be the best comp, you don't need to win the game. You just need to score really highly in a lot of the games and be really easy to play. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This comp is really easy to play. Positioning wise, we go over it more in the full guide down here, but Pantheon, put them in front of their damage dealer. Trundle, put it next to their tank. That's really all you have to worry about. Swap sides with Viego every now and then to try to hit units that are isolated and don't have someone CCing for them. And yeah, you just win a lot of games that way. And that's why it's the best comp right now. I think it was like Soju who said something like a Plat 1 one-trick Skirmisher player probably has the same chance to do well with Skirmishers as like a 1500 LP Challenger player. Obviously, this is an exaggeration, but it just goes to show how easy this composition is, because there aren't really too many variations. Like, you either hit or you don't. So just keep that in mind as you guys are playing. So on to the next comp, Abomination Vel'Koz. I've been loving this comp a lot. There are a couple different ways to play it. There's an open fort variation. There's kind of like a standard leveling variation, but essentially what you want to do is make sure you have 4 Spellweaver, and 3 Abomination is also nice. What you do is you go for Vel'Koz items. In this game, items do matter a lot. You want Shojin on Vel'Koz for sure. That's the best mana regeneration item. You want Jeweled Gauntlet. Sacrificial Jeweled Gauntlet I find to be a little better than the regular one, but like it doesn't really matter which one you have because you just need one at the end of the day. And then Shadow-Handed Vengeance is really good because it gives both the damage amplification and a heal, which is very, very welcome. There aren't too many items that do both of the same thing. Tank items, Warmogs is broken on Garen because he gains a shield based on his max health. So whenever he ults, he gains a huge shield. Also, Dawnbringers work based on his max health if you do end up playing Dawnbringers in the super late game with either a spatula, or like if you're able to fit an extra unit in, or if you go the Invoker version of this build. For your front line, any tank items work on Nunu, but since bows have little use in this composition, if you ever get a ZZ Rod or a Static Shiv, just build them right away because bows are literally useless in this comp in every other situation. You could also build like a Titan's Resolve because Chain is also pretty useless in this build, so a lot of times you're just building random items and then just making sure you get perfect Vel'Koz items down here. Rise likes mana items, and Guardian Angel's pretty good on Rise on its own. Chalice of Powers, I put them on Victor to buff up the Vel'Koz, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this composition. Like, the way to play it, like, yeah, you need a damage item and a mana item for Vel'Koz. Abominations just completely dominate the mid game for you, so you don't like die really quickly before you hit Vel'Koz. But I like to do standard leveling. I would avoid the redeemed build for now, but it is still an option if you're not able to hit the version above. And then from Kyun, he made like a little like quick guide on his stream on how to play this. I've tried it out personally. It works pretty well. I don't know why it works so well, but it just does. You pretty much just open fort, then fast 7 on stage 3-5, and then roll for Vel'Koz 1, and then you just play normally afterwards. Again, like, I found that I hit a lot whenever I do a fast 7 strategy. Like, I think I won like 2 games in a row with it when I tried it, but I'm not sure how well it does if you don't hit on level 7. But for some reason, like, everyone I've watched who does this, and when I tried it myself, you just hit, like, and like I've never found out what happens if you don't. So just keep that in mind. He is top 10 right now, so just keep that in mind. And then the counter to this composition, Thresh is really good against Vel'Koz because almost everyone puts him in the corner. No one puts him in the second slot where Victor is on this screen because they're too lazy to scout. So Thresh is a really effective counter to Vel'Koz because he often stuns him while he's casting, or if you catches him before, he pulls him into the fight, and sometimes your teammates can kill him before that. Assassins are really good. That's why Assassin LeBlanc is really, really popular right now, because it is a counter to the Abomination Vel'Koz build. Dragonslayers is the next comp. This is kind of a mix of all good things. You got Mordekaiser carry, you got Draven carry, you got Viego, you got Trundle and Pantheon, the most broken units in the patch right now. Every unit that is good, they're in this comp. So that's why this comp is so good. There's like, you're just running good units and they happen to have some semblance of similar synergies. So Mordekaiser item's really good. Warmogs, I think, is the best item on him. Draven, i.e. Last Whisper, really important. But one thing to note, this is an expensive composition. You look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cost units, and they're all pretty core to the comp. So you do need to save up a ton of gold before going this composition. And then you just do like a standard leveling, try to roll as much on 8 as possible. Don't roll too much on 6 and 7. And if you are dying out in the mid game, you'll probably have to switch to a different composition instead, or play a cheaper version of this composition, such as like a 4 Legionnaire comp. But these are the S tier compositions. I think they're all like by far the best comps, and they're easy to play. The A tier comp I have listed here, which is Assassins. They mainly do LeBlanc carry right now, but this is really difficult to execute because they nerfed the interaction on LeBlanc, so Dark Blue buff doesn't make her auto cast like every single second. So now she has to do an auto attack in between. So it's just not as good as it was before, but it counters a lot of comps right now, but you need to be really good at playing the comp in order to make it work. Like, I haven't seen people in like Platinum do well with this composition, but people in Challenger who play this, they do really well with it because they know the ins and outs of the comp. So if you are going to play this comp, dedicate like at least 5 games to learning it and then try to climb afterwards, because there's no kind of like template on how to play the comp compared to all the other ones that we visited before. Like the how to play section, it's like I list a way to play it, but you're going to have to use a lot of in-game judgment in order to actually do this composition. LeBlanc items really important. Like the only item that's replaceable is the IE. You could run like a hat instead or any damage item. Another thing you can consider is itemizing who you are able to 3-star easier. Generally, it's going to be a LeBlanc, but sometimes games are weird and you get a 3-star Katarina before you get a LeBlanc 2. So in those cases, you would itemize Katarina. Luckily, they use very similar items. You could run a 6 assassin version, though I do like the Revenant version a little more, but essentially you just go level 7, slow roll for 3-star LeBlanc and just itemize her and have a blast from that. You generally try to back row everyone. You put Nocturne in the front here because a lot of people have frontline Zephyrs, and this positioning just makes sure that your worst unit, Nocturne, gets Zephyred instead of someone more important. Because most people do like a carry Zephyr, in which case they put their Zephyr in one of the corners. But since some people don't like to guess which corner to go to and like swap every turn, they just put it on the main tank where people just put their best tank in the front and center. So that's why you put Nocturne there, just to eat up a Zephyr. And he's an assassin, so he jumps anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I like putting LeBlanc in the corners because she is range, so she often stays out of range of a lot of area of effect damage. Same with Katarina, generally put her on the side, but she jumps around, so it doesn't really matter afterwards. But Diana, you want to put in front of their carries so that she CCs everyone. So if you see like a Vel'Koz on the right side, you want Diana on the right. If you see Vel'Koz on the left, you want Diana on the left. But yeah, positioning super important with this composition, which again increases the skill cap. So just be careful when you play this, because unless you know what you're doing, like, it's pretty rough some games. All right, now onto the B tier, Forgotten Draven. We went over this before. If you guys want to check out more Draven footage, you guys can check out how I played only Draven from unranked to diamond on the Oceanic server. And I did like every variation of Draven you can think of, pretty much. Like maybe I missed like one really obscure one that no one plays anymore. But it's really fun to go only one comp in my opinion, and it makes you really learn all the ins and outs of it and all the different transitions, all the little unit choices you can make within the game. So I do recommend checking out that video if you want to learn more Draven. But yeah, Last Whisper IE plus a third item going to be really good. It could be Bloodthirster, it could be another damage item like Runons or Rapid Fire Cannon. All those are good news. And then Mordekaiser secondary carry and Viego as like a tertiary carry is something that is very welcome. On to the next build, Nightbringer Yasuo. Jeweled Gauntlet, RFC, Runons, really good combo on Yasuo. He just ends up doing a ton of damage. But it's really hard to hit this composition because when you are rolling or slow rolling for Yasuo 3-star, there aren't too many other 3-stars that are rewarding to hit. Like sure, Trundle 3-star and Pantheon 3-star are really nice, but everyone's playing Skirmishers right now, so good luck getting that. Morgana is decent, but like she's really just a stun bot, so if she's 2-star or 3-star, doesn't make that much of a difference. So it's really just using a lot of gold for one unit, and that's generally not worth it in TFT. So that's why this comp isn't like A tier or S tier, but it's still really good if you're able to hit it. Next up, Draconic Sett. I mean, get Draconic on stage 2-1, play this comp, and like you'll be doing decent, you know? You pretty much just itemize Sett with 3 items, Bloodthirster, IE, and then just any third item. And yeah, once you get him 3-star, you just fast 9 and then just play whatever you hit. In terms of legendaries. Really strong composition. You play 4 brawlers. 4 brawlers are amazing in the mid game. Next comp, Hellion Reroll. I mean, do you have a great Hellion start? Do you have a lot of Ziggs, Poppies, and Kleds? Like, if so, go the comp. Do you have a static shift to slam on 2-1? Yeah, okay, you can play Hellion, but it's just really rare to do it. But if you do get it, like, it's really good. Kayle Knights. All right, like, if you really want to go for this, again, a lot of people were asking me to add this comp to the list. And I generally don't include legendary comps unless it's actually like one of the most popular comps in the game, because legendaries are like so unreliable and there's no replacement for Kayle. Sometimes in other sets, if there's a legendary carry, like let's say there's a ability power legendary in a set, there's maybe like a different one that could use similar items to them, in which case, yeah, you could go for those comps because you just need to hit one of the 2 legendaries. But for Kayle Knights, who else uses Rageblade? Are you going to slam that Rageblade early and then just pray that you're hitting a Kayle on level 8 when the chances are like 2% on that level? You could play that way, but I just don't recommend it. You're not going to hit it that often, and like sure, the games you do hit the Kayle, you're going to be doing really well. But the games you don't, like you're going 8th. So it's like I'll leave the choice up to you, because if you find it fun to do so, like here's the comp that I recommend. We run 4 Knights with Mystic. You could also do 6 Knights if you're a true degenerate, but if you do that, you end up having to run like so many crappy units such as Leona and Poppy, so I don't like doing that, so I like doing the 4 Knight version. The good news about this comp, despite me listing all the bad things about it, is 1-star Kayle is good enough. You don't need 2-star Kayle. Of course, I would like to have a 2-star Kayle, but 1-star Kayle is good enough to stabilize, but yeah, it's just really weird. Right now, I would say it's pretty good against the Kayle and Jax comp, because they are both like very low damage compositions, because Vel'Koz, like he does damage over time, so Knights block a lot of that damage. Jax, he has like a Shadow Runon, so the Shadow Runon damage is blocked a lot by the Knights. So that's why it has a little bit of a place in the meta right now, but it's just so hard to hit. You have to build like items that don't work in other compositions really early, so like do it at your own risk. Spellweaver Cavalier. Again, this composition was popular for like a day, and then it just died off because people realized that it wasn't really that great. Blue buff, Jeweled Gauntlet, GA Brand, I think is best items on him. Full Tank Hecarim is really nice. I like doing Shadow Ionic Spark with the Titan's Resolve. And the third item, since he does a lot of last stands, I kind of like Gargoyle Stoneplate. And he just eventually gets so much AP and heals up a bunch, and it's just really fun to watch. I like having 4 Spellweaver, of course, because it gives the most damage to Brand. You could put support items on Victor and mana items on Victor. That way your team gets tons of shields. And of course, if you get even more extra items, throw them on Vel'Koz and have a blast from there. But it's pretty hard to hit Vel'Koz because you're slow rolling for Brand 3, Victor 3, Hecarim 3, Sejuani 3. And if you're doing that, like you don't have much gold to hit Vel'Koz because you're probably going to be level 7 when you roll, sometimes even level 6. So with that in mind, like Vel'Koz is pretty hard to hit, so don't rely on him because so many other players are going Vel'Koz and they are going to take him out of the pool. C tier, just don't play these. These are garbage. Like, sure, you might get a good game with them every now and then, but if you're looking to play like 10 games of the one composition, I would choose one of the S or A tier comps instead of the C tier comps. But like, of course, you're welcome to play these. If you're not trying to push like the highest rank possible, like you can play anything. So none of that really matters if you aren't trying to do that. But I do like to win, so I like making wins easier. So I like playing the S and A tier comps a little more than the C tier comps. I still play them every now and then, but it's more for fun, and I go into the game with that attitude. But Dawnbringer Karma is one of them. Draconic Zyra, like if you're going Draconics, like Sett is so much better. Coven Renewer, no one, like they nerfed Lissandra so much that this comp is just so bad right now. So just don't do it until they buff it back up. Blender Nocturne, why are you building Nocturne when you could build LeBlanc or the other assassin, Katarina? And then Draconic Ashe, again, just go Sett instead. Nightbringer Aphelios. Reroll Vayne, they nerfed too much. And then Abominations, like, yeah, this is a really old build, so just don't even bother with that. Just do Vel'Koz if you want to play Abominations. If you guys want to take a look at the items, I did update the Carousel Priority. Negatron is the best for Jax, that's why it's so high up. Tear is the best for Vel'Koz. Sword is the best for like kind of mixing between the two. Belt is really good in almost any composition because Warmogs is so important in this meta right now. It's like one of the best tank items. Gloves, good for flexibility. Bow is good if you want to do the attack speed RFC builds. Rod, I just don't really like that much, and Chain just... I'm trying to think of the good items that Chain makes, and there just really aren't that many. No one really needs a locket anymore because Skirmishers exist. They have a built-in locket. So these two items, they're just not that useful. I have not updated the TFT item quadrant, but it's like, I'd say it's like semi-accurate right now. I will be updating it next week. But we go over all the items for each composition up here. So in like a non-flexible meta, like right now, you're either going AP or AD comp. You don't really need an item tier list because you just need to follow whatever comp you're going. Item tier lists are more useful if you're in a flex meta because you know which items are like good in every comp and things of that nature. But yeah, I'll update it next week. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. Definitely check out the Raid Shadow Legends link below. Like, just try it out if you haven't already, because one, it helps me a lot. So I would appreciate that a bunch. And two, if you like it, that's great. If you don't, like, just uninstall it right after. It really doesn't take that much time to figure out if you like a game or not, in my opinion. That is it for me today. If you guys are new and want to learn more about TFT, definitely subscribe below and turn notifications on. If you guys are returning, thanks so much for coming back. I'm glad that you guys find all the stuff I do very helpful. Since you guys are already subscribed, like maybe hit the like button or share this video with a friend who's trying to get better at TFT if you want to support even further than you have already. Twitter, Instagram, Discord, all that stuff can be found in the description as well. So with that in mind, I will see you guys later. Good luck on your climbs.